GMC gave us this multi-stow tailgate storage as part of the 3rd generation Canyons and Colorados, and they marketed it as the perfect spot for everyday gear. Secure, easy to clean, out of the way. But when I opened mine and started seeing rust and corrosion on my hitch pin, it changed how I use the compartment. If you're thinking about throwing straps, tools, or an EDC kit in here, you'll want to see this before you do. On paper, the MultiStow looks ideal. You have a built-in storage compartment in your tailgate for your high-use gear, so it's not buried under your camping gear. Real-world owners, though, have been reporting moisture, condensation, and in some cases outright leaks, especially after rain or big temperature swings. In my case, I wasn't seeing standing water, but I did find moisture on the compartment edges and corrosion starting on my hitch pin. Here's the thing though, I really do want to use this space because there's not a ton of space underneath the back seats in the Canyon. It's nice to have those parts more readily available instead of having to dig everything out under the back seat. What I want to do is find a way to make this usable. It's not going to be a gun safe or a roam case, but it's going to be practical enough so things aren't rusting in there and I can get to them easily when I need them. So to try to make this more EDC friendly, I've done some research and it really seems to boil down to 3 things. One is upgrading the seal itself, addressing some moisture prevention, and perhaps adding some padding that can work as insulation as well to address if there's condensation that happens to temperature swings on the tailgate. The first thing I'm going to try is adjusting the latches as well as doing some additive weather stripping to see if I can create a tighter seal around the compartment. After removing everything and cleaning up the surface, the first thing I did was adjust the hinges. It's not really clear to see here, but you can loosen these 2 bolts. Once loosened, I pulled the hinges completely forward on both sides to test what that did from an alignment standpoint by putting a little bit of flour on each side, close the hatch just to see where things end up lining up on the existing weather seal. And it seems to hit pretty square in the middle around the outer lip of the storage itself. A popular suggestion was to replace the seal, but in looking at the current one, right, this slots in perfectly, and I'm not sure if I were to replace all that with something adhesive, how long that might hold up. Another thing I want to try is this MD Auto and Marine rubber seal. I've run a length of it along here, so let's close it up and see what we get. So instantly I find I have to push down really hard now to get the latch to close. So I don't know if this comes across on camera, but maybe to demonstrate, like previously this would slide all the way across, but now you have, I'd say about 1/8 of an inch raised. Where I finally landed in terms of weather stripping, at least in this initial go around, is running the strip just above the latch on the hatch itself. So if we take a look here, there's actually some stripping now that we can see between the spots. And if I open it up here for you, this runs purely along the top because when the hatch is closed itself, now I'm actually taking advantage of what was done earlier with the ESI tailgate seal. So I think this is going to address any potential water incursion along the side. And then if I had my tonneau cover up, I do have this strip that would prevent water that might be running down the inside of the tailgate, and whatever little bit does get through, then hopefully the actual factory seal would prevent it from getting further. The second thing I want to do to treat the compartment itself is add some foam padding to the bottom of the pan. This is meant to do 2 things. One, make the surface probably a little less rattly for when I'm putting tools in there. But secondly, use it as a kind of insulation. We do have a tailgate. The tailgate's out there in the sun. If we have changes in temperature, that can create humidity, lead to corrosion, lead to rust. I have this 3x3 squares of foam. I'm going to cut some of those pieces up, fit them into the slats within the MultiStow. At the very worst, it can't hurt as it provides more of a padded surface to help prevent some of the rattling around of any of the loose materials. So I've made all the cuts in the foam padding to create a custom fit to how I have my tailgate storage organized. So let's take a look. One thing I had purchased back when I first got the truck was a MultiStow tailgate organizer system. So it comes with these sets of D-rings that can screw into the corner points, as well as a couple sets of bungee type netting that can lock down particular items underneath. So one side I intend to use with that netting. And then in the second half, I've taken a couple of these divider cards they provided, and now I can create separate compartments within the unit itself. I think that the padding itself is going to be good from the standpoint of, say, I want to store something like this hitch point recovery. It's pretty heavy, so I can safely, kind of cinch that underneath the stretch netting there to hold it in place and reduce the amount of sound. In terms of how much actual insulation this will provide, in that area, I don't have high expectations, but it squarely falls in the category of it can't hurt. With the seal improvements and the padding / insulation addressed, the last area I want to touch on is how I'm going to attempt some moisture or condensation mitigation. Really the first thing and main thing I'm going to do is add some of these Desiccant packets into both the tailgate and to the mini bags that I use for storing things like tools and other metal items. I picked these up off of Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description. The reason I picked these particular ones is they're rechargeable. So you can monitor this, and as the color changes from this sort of a brown to a green, that means that they've absorbed their full amount of moisture. I can take these out, and using something like an oven, you can recycle them and put them back into the tailgate. Having completed the 3 updates, I have to say the MultiStow now feels less like some sort of rust kill box and more like a small gear drawer that I can trust to keep the right items. I'm designing my kit around my 2024 GMC Canyon and around choices that I've already made, like keeping my factory spare while running an aftermarket wheel setup. So let's take a look. Let's go through quickly some of the compartment layout before I get into some of the more specific build out parts. So the first chamber here, this is where I'm holding some ratchet straps. In the next compartment over, I have my deflator kit. This one here is from Boulder Tools. The capless fuel tank makes it really hard to get anything poured into the tank separately, so I keep this tank funnel available with me at all times. Moving over to the next bay is where a lot of the meat and potatoes of my setup is. I have 2 bags. One here is labeled tires. The second bag labeled tools. Along the bottom, I'm keeping my hitch recovery point as well as a breaker bar. So let's go through the items in the tire bag. Some of these are common and probably something that you carry in your vehicles already. One is a plug repair kit, generally handy to have around. A simple razor blade knife. Specific to my setup, since I'm keeping the factory spare, actually carry a set of the factory lug nuts with me, because the lug nuts that come on the custom wheels will just slide right through the other wheels' holes. That requires me then to keep the socket that's going to work with the custom lugs, as well as a 22 millimeter in the case of the GMC Canyon lug nuts. And that combined with the breaker bar allows me to change a tire in either direction. Next up is the tools bag. I'm trying to pick things based on the types of things that I'd likely to be able to repair and tools that I would need for that. For sockets, I went with Harbor Freight's Twin 10-piece metric socket set. The thing I like about them is that they do have the high visibility in terms of the markers. My eyesight being what it is these days, every little bit helps. I have a 3/8 inch ratchet with a 360 swivel ratchet head. This could be useful in terms of being able to get in at different angles. I added some wobble extensions. The wobble extension lets the socket tilt about 15 degrees off axis while still driving the fastener. Rounding out the set, I have a couple more devices to help with fasteners, vice grips, the tool that's going to cover a lot of different things. this 8-inch adjustable wrench. For when I have to wrench on something while using the socket on the other side, a simple screwdriver that has a couple different driver ends to it. The handle itself can come out, and then you have another set of bits on the other end. No kit is complete without a bunch of zip ties, of course. And then lastly, this little Icon mini tool set. This is going to help again with different collections of bits, as well as a ratcheting bit driver with an extension. You can also slide that extension all the way through the ratchet and use it as a T-handle for the bits. I thought this would be helpful to keep in the pack to get to all the different types of driver ends that I might need to work with. So where I landed is this. MultiStow is great for quick access truck EDC as long as you upgrade the seal and mitigate moisture. It's a perfect place for straps, a basic toolkit, tire repair gear, and in my case, some Canyon specific things like the spare lug nuts and the additional sockets I need for each of the lug sets. The compartment now feels more reliable to me. I can get to things easier than having to dig through under the back seat, especially when I have a bunch of overlanding gear stacked back there. If this helped you rethink your MultiStow setup or your EDC kit, hit that like and subscribe. We have several other pieces of Canyon content out there, like adding the ESI tailgate seal, tire and wheel selection for adding 33s, and the Powerbuilt Unijack as a replacement for your factory scissor jack. Be sure to check those out. Thanks for watching, and see you out there on the trail.